On in the room. Come on in the room. Bucks win it tonight, 141-117, blowout style over the New Orleans Pelicans. What a win for the Milwaukee Bucks tonight over the Pels. Both teams on the back-to-back. Come on in the room. And for the last time this year, it was all about the Prunty dog. Prunty dog all up in the building. He did it for us tonight. 141-117. Come on in the room. We are live. It's the we are. Oh, I messed that up. We are. See, it's that Stella Rosa. We are live as the Cream City Crossovers. The Guru Trey Crosby the third.
Chris King.
Yeah. We all in here. 141-117. The Bucks beat the New Orleans Pelicans tonight. Listen, man. Tonight was just absolutely fascinating. It's a fun win. I think no bad words tonight. No bad. I don't think there's anything bad I can say. Everything was well received. The offense. We'll get to it. Exactly what happened. But again, I just nothing bad. No ill will towards anything that happened tonight. The Bucks were in control pretty much throughout. Pretty much throughout the basketball game. The Bucks beat down the Pelicans. Pelicans look clunky throughout. And again, you have to tip your hat to Joe Prunty on the job he did, going 2-1 through 3 games. If you want to get your comments in at TCIIIESQ on the Twitter, and you can also go to YouTube and get your comments, obviously, in there as well. We will read them on air. We like to have some fun with everybody. Get your takes off. A 141-117 win means it's time for a game recap. And the game recap, as always, every night is sponsored by the law office of Daley M. Johnson. When you need defense off the court, go to the law office of Daley M. Johnson, serving Central and South Central Wisconsin with criminal defense, traffic, and OWI defense, temporary restraining orders, and injunctions. Contact the law office Daley M. Johnson, 608-893-8370. Go to his website, www.dmjlaw.com. Sign up for free phone or in-person consultation. He will do that for you. The law office of Daley M. Johnson sponsoring the game recap as always. And tonight's game recap, you just look what the Milwaukee Bucks did tonight. They had 4 scores in double digits. 30, 12, and 4 from Giannis Antetokounmpo, 30 points in 29 minutes of action. So he did some light work tonight for Giannis. You had Damian Lillard with 26, 6, and 9 on 50% shooting tonight. And so we talk about that, and we talk about, how he looks. And again, to me, the way the Bucks go, we can always say that, like, Giannis is the catalyst, and everything that Giannis does is, obviously Giannis is the Batman of this basketball team. But so far, to me, the way this team goes is as Damian Lillard goes. If Lillard has really good nights or he comes up clutch, seems like the Bucks win more often than not. If he doesn't and he struggles, it seems like the Bucks sometimes come with their own struggles. So good to see 50% shooting from Damian Lillard tonight, and he went 43% or so from the three-point line. Brook Lopez, 24 and 3. Jay Crowder got the start tonight with Chris Middleton out, 5 points, 4 rebounds, but it was Bobby Portis off the bench who was electric. And so funny because he finishes with 20 points, 7 boards, 2 assists, 9 of 15 from the field. And I was saying to somebody on Twitter, I was like, Bobby always has these games where he has 16 points in the first half. And I was like, he always has games where he has 16 points and he's going to finish the game with 19. And, of course, he finishes with 20. So he had 16 in the first half, 4 in the second half. But the Bucks didn't need it because they absolutely blew out the Pelicans. Andre Jackson Jr. got 17 minutes tonight. Good to see. Pat Connaughton, 5 points, 4 assists, and Cam Payne has actually looked pretty good since he's been reinserted into the rotation since post Adrian Griffin, now Joe Prunty running the helm, and then Marjon Beauchamp got in garbage time, and I thought he looked really good, got 6 points. AJ Green knocked down a 3 as well. We look on the other side for the Pelicans. Brandon Ingram with 26 and 6. Zion Wilson had 23, 2 and 2, 8 of 14 from the field. Zion, I'll talk about him in a second. Very clunky game. Jonas Valanciunas, 13, 10, and 6. Thought he looked really good out there. Herb Jones had 9 points. CJ McCollum, just 7 points for CJ McCollum, 4 6. He was 2 of 7 from the field. I don't know what he was doing. Hawkins with 8 points. Larry Nance Jr. with 10. Jose Alvarado with 4. And Noah Marshall with 8 points to round things out. They just didn't have enough for the Milwaukee Bucks. The Milwaukee Bucks were on fire tonight. They had 30 assists. 12 steals for the Bucks tonight, which was a pretty good number. They shot 56% from the field, 44% from three, 20 of 45 from three with only 9 turnovers. So again, just a really good night from the Bucks. And so I'll tell you what I saw before I hand this thing off to you, Chris. Listen, the first half was kind of ho hum Milwaukee Bucks, right? Like I thought the first half was I mean the Bucks offense was off the charts. I believe in the first half, yeah, they had a 36 and 39 point quarters. So first, second, and third quarter, 36, 39, 37, the point totals. So again, really big. So that means what the Bucks had 77 points at the half or something like that. If my math's probably off a little bit, 75, 76,
Yeah,
something like that.
75.
75 points at the half. I mean, that's a really good night. But again, you look on the other side, New Orleans was on pace for like 120 themselves because they had 63. So it was 75 to 63 at the half. So the Bucks were kind of in the same kind of mode as normal. However, their offense was just really, really good. Some of that spearheaded by Bobby Portis off the bench, and I think Damian Lillard started with 12 points in the first quarter. But it was a lot of the same, and Brandon Ingram was cooking all night long, cooking. And in the third quarter, I think a couple things. One, I think the Pelicans came out flat. And then secondly, for whatever reason, the Pelicans, instead of going with the matchup that was working, which was Brandon Ingram killing Jay Crowder, they decided, okay, you know what? We're going to get Zion going. And it was almost like they disrespected Jay Crowder. And instead of just keeping the matchup they had, they decided, let's run this pick and pop. And we're going to get Zion on a one-on-one with Jay Crowder, and that's just going to work. And it was like they just force-fed Zion the ball, and they were getting – because Giannis was on Zion, and they kept – it was like they wanted to switch so that Brandon Ingram would have to give the ball up you'd have Zion on Jay Crowder, and it did not work. I think, again, so I give some credit. I'm going to give a lot of credit to Jay Crowder for the defense he played on Zion, but some of it just Zion just – I thought he looked like he was trying to sell fouls all night, and it was the best word, he kind of walks like a box.
Like
And
bottles.
so, yeah, and so, I just thought and again, for the record, I don't watch a lot of New Orleans Pelicans basketball, so I haven't seen a ton of Zion Williamson. But man, it did not look good. It looked clunky. He looked like a guy that's like he looks like a guy that has a lot of bounce, but doesn't really know what to do with his body. And again, in that third quarter, and not so much before, but really, yeah, that third, it just got out of hand from a 12-point game or whatever, 8-point game, whatever it was at the half, where New Orleans just couldn't stop Milwaukee, but they were able to score themselves. In the third quarter, they were unable to score, and I think again they wasted 4, 5, 6 possessions just trying to force feed Zion the ball. So that's what I saw: 141-117. Milwaukee beat the Pels. Chris, what'd you see?
Well, I think the point that you just made is exactly right when it comes to they just didn't have an answer after the Bucks kept scoring. And that's what that's like your ceiling when you have such a high powered offense. 44% from 350 from the field. And, stops just tend to kind of continue in a motion where if you're scoring, it's easier to get stops and pile those onto each other. So I think I saw a lot of that tonight. I want to talk about Brook. Obviously, we talked about his poor performance versus the Cavs the other night. Wow. Bouncing back, getting in the 26 of 9 from 3. That's huge. That's what this Bucks team needs, especially when you have a guy out like Chris Middleton. Thought I saw a good job by the Bucks trying to get out and transition off those misses, and they did a good job capitalizing off of that. Obviously, Brandon Ingram, he's going to do what he does most of the time, and as long as you limit that and make other guys try to beat you, then it can go well. And I think that's a good kind of defensive scheme for this Bucks team. Is if one guy can beat you, but they're not going to be the whole team, and that's what you saw tonight with Brandon Ingram. Just good play off the bench from Bobby. I thought he played well. And, we didn't see much of Marjan, but he gave some good minutes as well, obviously a little bit later. But, so that's pretty much what I saw. Good minutes off the bench from Campaign. Pat shot the ball well. That's pretty much it. Good job from top to bottom, really.
Yeah, I talked about, like I said, I just don't. You just don't have a lot of complaints from this Milwaukee Bucks basketball team tonight. King of Kings says I think he said that's what I want to see. Malcolm Mackin says they play better with. Let's stay right here on this one. They play better without Middleton in the lineup. Less confusion. and no ball stopping.
Mm.
They play better without Middleton in the lineup. I'm not gonna go that far and say they play better because I think again a guy like Chris Middleton, what is he giving you? I don't know what his averages are, but I think his averages he can easily give you somewhere between 15 and 20 points a night, and then he's gonna give you the playmaking. He can give you 5, 6, 7 rebounds, and then he give you 5, 6, 7 assists as well. So I won't say they play better. I do agree with the second part: less confusion and no ball stopping. I do agree that there is this because again, and you look at different people. So I'll give you an example, and they talked about this in the Pelicans broadcast too. Which of course I listen. Of course I listen to the Pelicans broadcast instead of listening to. As soon as I heard Steve Novak, anytime I heard Steve Novak on, I just click. I got league pass. I just clicked right off of it, and I was like, let me get out of here. And New Orleans Pelicans, by the way, has probably the best Nelson crew in the NBA with Joe Myers and Antonio Daniels. But one thing that they talked about and I agree with was, when you take this transition from being a guy to not being a guy or even going up. So think Tyrese Maxey, right? Where he's a third guy and has to play third fiddle to a James Harden and a Joel Embiid. Well, now look how different he looks as that second guy to Joel Embiid. It's light years different. Whereas again, you look at James Harden, he's trying to have to adjust to being from going from a second guy to a third guy, right, out in LA. And again, you see these kinds of things happen all over. Damian Lillard in the same type of way. So the Bucks have to do it kind of twice because Damian Lillard's coming from a situation where he was the one guy, and now he's got to be kind of the 1B2 guy. And Chris Middleton is coming from a situation where he was your number 2, but really in the clutch, you make that argument because Giannis doesn't like shoot jumpers in the clutch. So in the clutch, Chris Middleton could really make the argument. Yeah, I am 100% 1B because I take all the tough shots, the contested jump shots. Where Giannis is getting the ball and rolling and doing what he does, but Chris gets to take those. How many times the game winners are going to Chris in the games? Like they're drawing up plays, so you really do feel like you're not 1A, but you really do feel like you're the 1B, and you step all the way down to number 3 when you have a Dame and a Giannis. So the adjustment period is large. And again, there is something to say when you talk about, it's a great point from Malcolm there, there's just less confusion. It's Giannis is number 1 with this thing. I'm number 2 if I'm Dame Lillard, and I'm getting mine. When Chris is in, there's still that, okay, well, you 1, I'm 2, but we got to find a way to get Chris the ball too because, again, he's such a big part of the offense. And so I don't disagree that there is less confusion. I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily say they play better because I think anytime you can add a guy to the lineup that can do the things Chris Middleton does, I think it's important. But yeah, there's something to say that there's less confusion and Damian Lillard plays his role much better when there is no Chris Middleton to worry about.
I agree. I think that a lot of times, and you also have to provide the context that they're still getting used to each other, and it's only 40 games in. But I also think that a lot of times you see the Bucks offense and you see them kind of stalling out and a lot of ISO ball being played because these guys are trying to. I don't know if they want to get theirs or if they're just trying to figure something out because nobody's getting open or nobody's cutting, but the flow of the offense is much better when Chris was out tonight. But I wouldn't chalk that up just to being Chris Middleton and he's a problem for this Bucks offense. Now, I wouldn't do that. I would just say that they know the hole that they need to fill with Chris out, and they know that they need to take action, and it seems to run a little bit smoother right now.
Yeah, night and day from last night there were stretches of like I said 6-8 minutes where the Bucks. I think it was like an 8-minute stretch. The Bucks didn't have a field goal, and tonight the Bucks couldn't miss. Some of it was the defense of the Pels, and again they played a back to back, but no excuse for the Bucks played 1-2. But some of it was their defense, some of it was just the Bucks offense was just too great. Robert Henry says great win versus the Pelicans. I felt we beat them tonight, especially the way we lost to the Cavs. Now got a tough road trip coming up. Only see maybe a loss in Denver. So, Chris, we talked about, we did all your T's and Q's this morning on 97.3 The Game, obviously 10 and noon. You can catch us on 97.3 and iHeartRadio. But we talked about this 6-game stretch that was coming up for the Bucks, and we started tonight. I think a lot of people will talk about, and just go to the 5-game, may just talk about the 5-game road trip coming up from the Bucks. But I think it was important because the Pelicans are a good enough team to where I think you have to add in what happened tonight too, because again, they are a good basketball team. So if you had a 6 game stretch of Pels, Nuggets, Blazers, they're just stuck in there. Mavericks, Jazz, Suns. We said success looked like, I think we said 4-2. I would take 4-2. I think we said that,
Mm-hmm.
and the Pelicans are definitely one of those wins that you got to have. You can probably drop one to the Nuggets on Monday, but then you figure out where the other one comes if you have to lose it. But this was good, and not just that you beat them, but convincingly you took them out. And so I think that was just that was good to see. Green Ranger says, "Yep, Dame at his best is what's best for the Bucks." I think Doc realizes this as well. In a podcast several weeks ago, Doc said Dame should have the ball even more.
I think we'll figure all that out on Monday, and that'll be a quick turnaround for this Bucks team and an important game versus a title contender, the defending champions. That'll be interesting. We'll see what happens in that high stakes game. I know the energy will be up, especially with Doc Rivers and his first game with the Milwaukee Bucks. So. Yeah, as far as obviously in the post game today, he was already talking about how they need to be more comfortable with each other, Giannis and Dame, that is. And so I think Doc Rivers obviously has the experience of having these star players and having this loaded of a roster that you may see adjustments right away, and you might not because it is so quick and such a quick turnaround for him. But ultimately, I'm just really looking forward to that Monday game.
Yeah, and I think it actually gives the Bucks an even better chance because Doc Rivers is coming in on Monday. As I said, we talk about what's going to happen this 5 game road trip, because you saw the energy pick up, especially I really think in that first game the energy was really high. I saw a remarkable difference in the energy in that
Mm-hmm.
game, that first game against Cleveland when Joe Prunty took over. The other night, last night, yeah, not so much. Tonight, again, and tonight I don't know that it was. I don't know, especially in the first half. I don't know if the energy was high. I don't know if the energy was really high or much higher than I've seen in the past. But for sure, the Bucks just hit a lot of shots. And again, you saw that all throughout the year. The Bucks just had a big night shooting the ball, and tonight they couldn't miss. And the Pels just kind of, like I said, for whatever reason, they I don't like I said I don't want to say they slowed down. They were just flat, and again they're on a back to back young basketball team. It happens. If you're a Pelicans fan, you probably would want to see them be a little more competitive with the Bucks than what they were. But again, kudos to the Bucks for keeping the at least whatever injury they did have. Again, I thought it was a good game. I thought they did the things they need to do, especially in that second half. The first half, we kind of chalk it with some of the defensive, not as much lapses, but I just thought the Bucks were a little bit, the pace got a little too up and down for them. But it didn't matter because they shot the ball so well. But defensively, it has some issues. Kylan Racine says great offense, still no defense. I will disagree with you just slightly there, Kyle, because I thought, again, the first half, yes, defense wasn't there, but I thought in the second half, the Bucks, and again, and some of it to me was unforced because I thought the Pelicans got out of character offensively. So I think they played into the Bucks' hands. I think the Bucks did some marvelous job defensively. But if that's what the offense is going to give you, and you're going to attack a mismatch that wasn't a mismatch for you in the first half, I no problem with the Bucks for taking advantage of it. And again, I will say the rebounding has gotten much, much better out of Milwaukee. And, that was a point of contention and point of concern that we saw under Adrian Griffin. Tonight, the Bucks win the rebounding battle 45-43. And let me see how many offensive rebounds the Bucks gave up tonight. 9. So I can live with that, giving up under 10, under double-digit rebounds on the offensive end. That means not a lot of second chance points. And the other thing I do feel like I'm seeing since the shift from Griff, 2 things. So we talk about like what has been different about the defense. Again, the scheme has been virtually the same. What has been, and we talk about the energy being different, but what has been different to me is I haven't seen the miscommunications all the time that we used to see, like literally every game. Somebody because the scheme doesn't matter if you just let somebody behind you, right? Like
Right.
scheme doesn't matter if you're not like, because the scheme is never to give up a backdoor cutter. Like that's never part of it. That's not part of what you give up in a defense. But if you're not paying attention and if you're not talking And if you don't understand, what man you have, what assignment you have, that's when those things happen. So for whatever reason, I don't know if you want to if you want to blame Griffin or if you want to give Prunty praise. For whatever reason, those miscommunications have stopped, and also the Bucks have stopped getting beat back in transition, which used to be a big issue. I mean, even on made baskets, the Bucks would get beat. I'm not. Those two things have stopped, and those have made a marketable change in how the Bucks have looked.
And I'll also comment like the Pelicans aren't just a bad rebounding team. Like they got a lot of guys who can just go up and go get 10 rebounds on a random night, and they did a good job of keeping those guys intact. But I also think that, like I said earlier, when they let Brandon Ingram, do what he did, and it really helped limit some of their other sneaky scorers, like guys like Herb Jones and CJ. Obviously, CJ can have big scoring nights, and Jordan Hawkins shot the ball 2 of 10 tonight. That's not going to cut it for them. So, good job by the Bucks defensively, focusing on the right things. It looked like.
Sorry. Got some good comments continuing to come in to the chat. I want to get this stuff on Twitter too, but just coming in on the chat. One question that came in from Mono Lando. A couple things. So he says, one, they need to run more plays with Bobby in post. No, they do not. Tonight it looked good, and again, that's the thing. Like that's the duality of man, right? When you got Bobby Portis one night, he looks like this. It's like, hey, don't trade him. Is this a night where he's building up his trade value? I don't know. But that's why it's so tough when we talk about, hey, we got to trade this guy, we got to do this thing differently. Bobby looked a certain way under Griffin, but I don't know what is he going to look like under Doc Rivers. Do you even have enough time in 2 weeks to properly evaluate what Bobby Portis' role would be before a trade deadline? I have no idea, and I think again, it makes John Horst's job really, really hard. And it goes to the second question here: is do you think the Bucks will make a trade? So, Orlando, 100. There is no question the Bucks are going to make a trade, right? They have been rumored to be very active on the market. We know they're going to make a trade. The question is, how big are they going to swing? Who are they going to go try to go get? What type of a player are they more going to be in the range for a Caruso or a Dorian Finney-Smith? Are they really going to try and go get a DeJounte Murray, or are they more so going to see, hey, can we get a Quentin Grimes? Can we do a Chris Dunn? Can we do something like that? Like those are really your questions: is what kind of moves do they make? But again, I'll just say I think it's a really tough situation that John Horst is in, because you're watching guys and trying to evaluate them through 40 games, but you fired your coach, and so now you're bringing in a new coach, and the way that those guys could play under Griffin, which is like, well, I know this isn't going to work under him. They may work differently under a Doc Rivers offense and defense that's yet to be seen. So I think, again, are they going to make moves? Yes, but I just wonder how that changes the evaluation status. But Chris, what do you think about that question from Orlando? If the Bucks are going to make moves, and again, we've talked a little bit about this for a few shows, but what do you think is going to happen? How big of a swing do you think John Horst is going to take to this roster?
Well, I think the thing is with Horst is you're gonna have, like you said, it's gonna be tough on you because your so-called assets haven't been very consistent this year. So teams aren't stupid. They don't just look at one 20-point game from Bobby Portis. They also don't look at one 3-of-4 game from Pat Connaughton. So that's your biggest issue is finding a way to kind of build the right package to deal to another team that can help you win. And, some of the names that have popped up, Dorian Finney-Smith, DeJounte Murray, stuff like that, like the asking price is a lot higher than what we think that it should be or what we even have to give. So that's the bigger issue that's facing the Bucks. Now, I would not count Horst out because we've seen him make great moves at the deadline. And so I think he'll be able to at least figure something out that hopefully benefits this Bucks team. But yeah, 100% we're making a move, and I'll be looking forward to that trade deadline. I've been talking about it soon enough that'll be over.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be fun. It's a 141-117 victory. The Bucks beat the New Orleans Pelicans tonight. Let's go to the Twitter and see what's on there. Todd Moral. Like I say, I always want to say Marhol, but it's Moral, I think. You can tell me how to pronounce it. It says they played free and easy tonight, like a weight was lifted off of them. Dame and Bobby set the early pace. Giannis with a very efficient game, most enjoyable game in several weeks. Rated R Noop, our guy Justin from NC said, great balance tonight. Love that they used Ajax more. Let's strap and get ready for Doc. At 14 Coco Chicks says maybe best win of the season. Boston was great, but they didn't put up a fight for long. I don't think tonight was the best win of the season because I mean I would argue that the Pelicans didn't put up a fight. I guess to your point, yeah, the Boston put up less of a fight than New Orleans, but I mean the fight was over pretty much early in the third tonight with the Pelicans. Deegan Chris says defense has looked better all three games since AG left. So again, the question we kind of answered this. The defenses look better all three games since AG left. Is that a result of defensive tweaks or the team playing with more energy? I'll tell you again, and I think Marcus Johnson answered the question. Again, he wasn't on tonight, but against the Pelicans, I just haven't seen a lot of changes to the defense outside of the energy. And the biggest change that I've seen has been, so if you remember, Dr. Griffin would play like multiple schemes throughout the game, and he would switch and go to zone, and run. He'd try to run that inverted zone. He'd hug guys out on the 3-point line. Well, Prunty never really had to do that because I mean, outside of I would say tonight in the first half, we got a little, I think the Bucks got a little, out of sorts and out of rhythm defensively but it was really just one guy. It was just Brandon Ingram just killing Jay Crowder. But there really wasn't a need to run multiple defenses. So I think the energy has been a little better, and I do think there was just that first game against Cleveland. I think they just shot the ball. I just didn't think they shot the ball well, honestly. And again, the energy was up too, but I thought they just missed some shots that they probably should have made. But again, I think when we talk about those defensive tweaks, I mentioned them. I think those were the few things that I've seen that have really changed. Not so much with the base defense, but hey guys, we're not going to get beat back, and we're going to communicate. We're not going to have many lapses in communication because that's what killed the Bucks more so than like I said, the scheme doesn't give up guys running free to the lane behind you. Like that's not scheme. That's like people being out of position. And so for whatever reason, the communication has been so much better. Like how many times do we see like Brook Lopez and Andre Jackson Jr.? I just see it with Brook all the time. That like there'll be a switch that needed to happen, and I think guys were switching all over the floor, but Brook Lopez wouldn't switch, and somebody would typically forget that Brook wouldn't switch, and so they would start to switch, and Brook would be going with that other guy who rolled, and you leave a 3-point shooter, and everybody. It happened multiple times throughout the game. It has not happened under Joe Prunty's regime. So again, I don't know if I want to say, hey, Griff, you've been terrible, or if I want to pump up Prunty and say, man, Prunty, you're doing a great job making sure this team communicates, but for whatever reason, I will agree the defense has been better. They've been more connected, and that's a good thing for the Bucks moving forward.
Well, I also think that there's something to be said about making an adjustment like firing your head coach in the middle of the season. Like, it's not just, Adrian Griffin. I think it's the players kind of realizing that, like, our defense was terrible for the first 40 games. Maybe we should listen to this next guy, what he thinks and what he has to say, and they come in and make some adjustments for those lapses because we talked about it, the awful lapses on defense where people are just back cutting, getting open, or people are setting down screens and shooters wide open because nobody switched. So I think it's a little bit of both of recognizing that your head coach was just fired because of the product that the players were putting out on the floor, but also just making sure that they clean up some of the mistakes that end up hurting them in the long run.
So wait a minute. It says that Doc is a Giannis hater, and Green Ranger says Chris needs to be more in the Klay Thompson role. He needs to catch and shoot. I'm sorry, ISO plays for anyone outside of Giannis Dame is a bad possession. And then I want to get this other piece that Green Ranger talks about where he's saying that Doc is going to trim the fat of the offense. Bobby ISO, Brook one leg fadeaways, Chris ISO dribbling, all gone. Just watch. And it says, go look at Doc's past teams. Rondo, Paul Harden. Now Dame will be given control. And again, I've talked about this a bit. I don't disagree with you in the fact that I do think that Doc Rivers, what I like to call, he's going to take the low hanging fruit, and the low hanging fruit is to spam the pick and roll. Like that is the low hanging fruit of this offense that was not used a ton I think Doc Rivers is going to do that, and it's gonna. I mean, like I said, you or I could coach a basketball team when you got Giannis and Dame, and just say, "Hey guys, we're gonna run pick and roll damn near every time we go down the floor." And I mean, again, the question is how effective is that going to be in the playoffs? But that's something I think that Doc Rivers is going to bring to this offense, and I think for the most part, I think it will work like 100%. I think it will work. And again, you look tonight with the guys shooting the way they shoot again, and it's so crazy because you look at Boston tonight losing to the Clippers, and it's like if you could just shoot the ball well, you're going to be okay. And then, but the question is, what do you do outside of that?
Mhm.
Do you have things for outside? And to me, the Bucks they should. Like you just have so much firepower
Yeah.
that you should have things outside of it.
And that's the thing. You shouldn't have to have Bobby Portis going ISO on the block. You should be able to create good looks for your guys in terms of not having to have guys go ISO. Brook Lopez does it a little bit. Talking about his fadeaways or him being on the block, he's kind of like a black hole as well sometimes. And even Chris too, trying to do too much ISO. So if Doc can come in and trim the foul, I'm all for it because you have an offense that will open up regardless when you have Giannis Antetokounmpo and Damian Lillard out there. The star power of those two can create open looks as long as you're moving the ball and you're cutting and you're moving and you're active.
A 141-117 victory. Bucks beating the New Orleans Pelicans tonight, propelling themselves into a 5-game road trip that they're going to partake. Bucks sit right now 32-14, still basically on a 70% win clip. 3 games back from the Boston Celtics. And again, it's crazy. You're 3 games back from the Celtics. You started to create that separation between, and again, it's early, but I like the standings watch. So you're 2 games ahead of Philly. You're 3 games ahead of the Knicks in fourth. You're 3.5 games ahead of Cleveland in fifth. And then Indy right now, who has won 2 games at the sixth spot, you're 6 games ahead of them. So you could probably rest assured that barring some epic collapse, you're not going to finish any less than fifth. You're not going to finish any less than probably third or fourth right now. But I'm just saying, realistically, that could happen because you look at the Knicks who are on a 6-game win streak. Bucks are 7-3 in their last 10. And that was what I was kind of talking to. And again, I get it that you fire Adrian Griffin, and that's and that's what John Horst decided to make. And time will tell whether or not that Doc Rivers can lead this team to a championship. But it's not like he got this team and everything's just in disarray. Like I know there was talk about. I will say this. I do think so much talk online and through the media, the state of the team and how it was running may have been bad. I'm just trying to think of an analogy that I can think of that makes sense for what was going on in Milwaukee. Like I guess here's what I'll say. It's like a car, right? This beautiful, nice car, and when you get into it, everything's just junky. There's Cheerios all over the seats. You got your kids in there, and they had yogurt, and there's old McDonald's bags and fry, and you left it, and it's nasty on the inside, but on the outside, again, everybody sees 31-13, and it's beautiful, and oh man, this is nice. But when you peel back the layers and look at that team, it's like, man, y'all got some issues going on in there. And but regardless, you have a very nice car, and what you're hoping is that Doc is basically going to be a detail shop,
Mm-hmm.
and he's going to clean everything in the inside. And next thing you know, not only you have this beautiful car going down the street on the outside, on the inside it's going to be inviting, and everybody's like, wow, this is great. And so that's the kind of stuff you got to clean up. But that's all he has to do. It's not like your car stinks and like you're not like people talk about disastrous season. Disastrous season is what's going on in Golden State. 19-23, 23-23. The Los Angeles Lakers struggling. The Phoenix Suns are 26-19, struggling. Those are disastrous. The Miami Heat, who for whatever reason get a pass every single year, the Miami Heat get this pass because they've had these magical postseason runs. They get a pass to just be a 2-pack of ass all regular season. They're 24-22. They've lost 6 in a row, 3-7 in their last 10. That's a disastrous season. That's not what the Bucks have. So I guess I just want to like get that. Yes, the Bucks had their problems and their issues, but Doc's taking over a team that is ready to ascend. He's not taking off a team that right now is in the play-in.
And you see a product of that tonight. Like this team is not dead, and by no stretch of anything was it ever dead. It was just that, like you said, I don't know. That was a great analogy. You just said that was off the top. That was off the dome.
Off the top, man. I was trying
See,
to think of something. We got
see,
it.
dirty car, dirty interior. That's what it was.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it was. And honestly, you wouldn't know. Yeah, you wouldn't know until you're inside it. And we didn't even know. That's why a lot of people were on our heads for defending AG. We didn't know he lost the locker room. That was never a thing. We didn't know that. So now you got Doc Rivers comes in, commands the respect of these guys and a veteran group that probably respects him. And yeah, so I think it'll be good, and they'll hopefully be playing their best ball later in the year.
Colin Racine says, "How has that low hanging fruit worked for the guy who has lost the most playoff games?" Now, I came on here, was it the other night, and kind of went in on Doc Rivers and the playoff successes and the failures, really. But here's the best answer that I have to that, Kyle. He's never like James Harden and Joel Embiid, Chris Paul and Blake Griffin. The answer to that I have is you're absolutely right that it has not worked, but neither one of those tandems is Dame and Giannis. Like I would take Giannis over Blake Griffin and Joel Embiid. I would take Damian Lillard as a well, Chris Paul's a better point guard, but I would take Damian Lillard as a scorer over Chris Paul. That's a good question. Whether you take Dame over Chris Paul,
Well, and just better teams, top to bottom. That's the thing.
Well, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it's not just the big three and the big
Sure.
names. I think we are deeper than a lot of those teams that Doc Rivers ended up coaching. And I'm not really a big fan of making the excuses when you have those type of leads, but it definitely made them more vulnerable to and more susceptible to blowing those leads when you have guys that are basically off nights on some nights. We saw it in the finals when Chris Paul was with the Suns. So yeah, I mean these guys that he coached obviously aren't to the caliber that Giannis and Dame and this Bucks team is.
King of King asks, do you think that Chris Middleton could be traded? No. I don't know if
Probably
I have
not.
to expound upon that, but no. I think the biggest name that could be traded is Bobby Portis. I don't think. I mean, unless you can consider like Malik Beasley, the way Malik Beasley's been a great offseason signing. If there's a deal that makes sense, I could see Malik going, but no, I don't think that, and I think it's 50-50 on Bobby Portis. I think it's 50-50, but I
Because
don't
he's
know. I
giving
don't.
you 50-50 on the court. So
Right.
it's either
Right.
he's playing well or he's not, and that's not very attractive to some teams. But when I'll talk about Chris a little bit, no, you probably don't trade him at least now, because just the what you're getting back is not going to be able to provide the same just for a straight up swap with Chris Middleton. I don't think that he's very attractive to some teams in the trade market, because he's been kind of second fiddle and 1B to Giannis, and some of his inconsistencies as well arise and the injuries arise. So there's a lot around Chris Middleton that kind of gives you a reason not to trade him, and you just roll what you got. And that is a really great player and an all-star caliber guy. We just haven't seen it so far this year. But yeah, I mean, I think you keep him for sure.
Yeah, no, yeah. If Chris is playing well, I mean, he is an excellent for a number three guy. He's excellent. I don't think you can. I don't think you can ask for anything better. Um, Monolando says, I think Damian Giannis' screen and roll tactic is still under construction. Giannis is always out of position when trying to run this play. Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that. And I think Giannis has traditionally just been a bad screener for his entire career. And, we'll see if he becomes a better screener. But yeah, I think he's just not a great screener. But yeah, he gets the ball, he can play make. He can do a lot of things when he gets it. But again, just the danger of it is still high. And again, one of the things I just really want to see, I'd love to see Damian Lillard able to get Giannis more lobs. I want to see that happen.
Mm-hmm.
That should be something. That should be a staple of this offense. That Giannis gets lobs. Let's talk for a second. Let's go down the list and talk about Joe Prunty, Chris, I want to ask you about your thoughts evaluating Joe Prunty. I know it's been a small sample size,
Right.
3 games, but just the position Joe Prunty was in, going from the second on the bench to moving over 6 inches to that coach's seat through 3 games on a team that really for all intents and purposes has been really good. What did you think of the job he did?
Well, I thought Prunty did a great job with this Bucks team, and I think last night's loss, that really wasn't on him. It was a lot of just missed shots, and also once again we talk about the laziness with the Bucks team. I didn't think they played well in transition last night. Brooke shot poorly, so yeah. I thought Prunty did a good job, especially coming in on short notice and having a tough stretch of where you got to play the Cavs twice in a row, and then you got to go play a team in the Western Conference that probably not paying much attention to. A quick turnaround back to back. So yeah, I think he did a good job of inspiring these guys. I don't know, obviously what he told these guys in the locker room, but it must have been something good because obviously we see some tweaks. We see that the defense was cleaning up some of those mistakes we talked about earlier, and I also think that Prunty's just probably done a good job of just telling them like, we got Doc Rivers coming in, but let's go win these 3 games, and they gave their best effort 2 out of the 3, and no complaints from me about Prunt Dog.
There we go.
There
There
we
we
go.
go. Yeah, I was
Little
gonna say,
personality.
You like Prut Dog? Go ahead and bark that thing up. All right, there we go. So good stuff, Prut Dog. I echo those words. I really don't have anything
Yeah.
to add. I thought Prunty did his job admirably. And again, somebody asked, earlier in the chat, they asked, do we think that Doc's going to keep some of the staff or whatnot? You heard Dave Yeager has been added to the staff already. And Rex, can't remember his last name, has been added to Doc Rivers staff right now in Boston. Excuse me, in Boston, in Milwaukee. I know that Dave Yeager was in Boston and came over to Milwaukee. But yeah, I think that I think the majority of them will be retained. I think it's gonna be hard to overhaul your entire coaching staff. I think I think you'll see a lot of them. I think Joe Prunty's obviously he's been around a number of different coaching staffs, so I would love to see him obviously stay with his basketball team. And then, like I said, Doc Rivers add a few more guys, whatever he thinks he needs to do to shore up his bench and to getting guys that he trusts. But for Joe Prunty, just a really good high character guy who's been around again a lot of different coaching staffs. He was there when Jason Kidd was let go, was the interim coach. He was the interim coach in, I believe it was Atlanta. When was that Atlanta when what's his name was let go when was he I feel like he was the interim coach in Atlanta too. And then here in Milwaukee as well. So again, just a really good job. And I think these 3 games, the team could have fell flat on their face, but they didn't. It just shows how well connected they are. So, real good job from Joe Prunty. Orlando, since the Bucks have a tough schedule ahead of them, yeah, they do. They absolutely do. But it's one of those things. Mono, tonight was a tough night on a back-to-back, and I get the Pelicans were too. But tonight was a tough night, and you could have gone there and done anything. It could have been a close game. You could have gotten blown out. Like the Bucks could have gotten blown out, and I'm sure we would have been upset. But nobody would have felt like the world was ending if the Bucks got blown out tonight, in the third game that Joe Prunty was coaching before Doc takes over on Monday. Nobody would have, been soaking. Would have been like, man, that's a tough loss. Nobody would have said that. And the Bucks did the exact opposite. So I feel really, really, really confident and good about this basketball team. And I think you make a couple tweaks to your defense. John Horst get a couple guys in. Doc Rivers take over this thing and really just captain the ship. And I think the Bucks are in a really good spot. 141-117 Bucks win. Man, Chris, we've done so much today. So we did all your T's and Q's for an extra hour, taking the Doc Rivers press conference live. Mm-hmm. Then we did then of course you sat down, watched the Dayton Flyers basketball game, did Dayton post game, which that was a tough loss to the Richmond Spiders.
Spirits were not high in that one. But you know what we also did though? We recorded a YouTube video, got the thoughts on the post game. Yeah, you forgot that one. So yeah, so what am I, quadruple duty at this point?
Yeah,
but
man.
hey,
so, yeah.
Well, rather no other way to spend my night on my Saturday night to be talking Bucks basketball, and we
Yeah,
got a ton more coming.
because no other way you want to spend. I can think of a few other ways I want
I
to
could
spend it,
too, but
but
I'm gonna
but for
say
what
it
it's
for
worth,
the
yes,
for the viewers who are sticking it out with us. So yeah,
yeah.
man, it's been fun. Not really because Dayton took a bad L tonight, but you know. Well, Wisconsin Badgers won last night, so that I guess that'll be my second favorite team. They're hooping.
Well, Badgers won. The Marquette Golden Eagles won as well.
Yeah, Marquette won.
So good stuff from them. And Doc Rivers was in attendance at the game. Yeah, like I said, no other way I like to spend a Saturday night. Not just talking Bucks basketball, but talking Bucks basketball with you and everybody who is listening and watching, and will watch tomorrow whenever you see this recording. So good stuff. Let's do some game balls. I'm gonna give mine out to. I think the Indian. I could easily give it out to Giannis or Dame. But I'm going to give my ball to the guy who, because it's tough when Giannis has 30 and 12 to give it to somebody else. But
Right.
Bobby Portis came off the bench and was cooking early. He had 16 points in the first half. I've been really tough on Bobby Portis all year long. And so when you come out and you have a game like you had tonight, 20.7 boards, 2 assists, 1 steal, 9 of 15 from the field, 2 of 5 from three. Only 1 turnover. He did foul out with 6 fouls. And we've always talked about the plus minus. He was a +2 tonight, so a really good job from Bobby Portis. He did everything you could have asked him to do. I think he let Zion get to the basket on him, a few times. But I saw the effort was there, and so Bobby Portis for me gets my game ball tonight, 20-7. Who you got?
I'll give it to Brooke. Just obviously responding from a poor shooting night last night and coming out and hitting 6 threes. Also, obviously the rebounding has been kind of fluctuating with Brooke, but also, got a steal in there. Just shot the ball well, and that's what we need from Brooke, especially when a guy like Chris is out, you need a scoring punch, and when you can get that from your stretch 5 center, that's always good. If you can get 25 plus or whatever it was, 24, that's gonna pay dividends in the long run, and it just shows people and NBA viewers that this Bucks team is dangerous on any given night, no matter who's out.
100%, 100%. I think it's a very good night. So Bobby and Brooke get the game balls. Mono says Bobby and Brooke did amazing. So I think they agree. If you agree with everything we said, or some of you, not everything, but some of the things you said. If you disagree with us, hit that like button, follow, share, subscribe, tell a friend to tell a friend about the Cream City crossover. We appreciate all of that. Let's do a quick look around into the NBA tonight and see what happened. I do want to talk about one thing that was very interesting to me. That took place. Of course, if I can get my stuff working here. Okay, so let's look at some scores. Wow, we are tied in overtime right now. Lakers, Warriors. 2 minutes ago in OT, 124 over on ABC. I should
It's a
say.
battle of ass.
Yeah, well, right. The Kings are up on the Mavericks 118-109. That game is about to end. Wizards beat the Pistons earlier. The Heat lose to the Knicks. The Nets beat the Rockets. Jazz 134-122 over the Hornets. The Clippers 115-96 over the Celtics. Bad loss from the bad loss for the Celtics tonight because the Clippers were on a back-to-back. And I'm just looking, wow. Anthony Edwards played. Rudy Gobert played. Karl-Anthony Towns played. Wow, that's an interesting score. 113-112. San Antonio over the Timberwolves. Wolves have been rolling, and that's an interesting score to see out of Minnesota. They are now, what are they? Their last 10, 6-4. So yeah, I know they've had a couple losses that have come down the pike, but a 111-105 victory. The Denver Nuggets beat the 76ers. And I want to get your thoughts on this, Chris, really quickly before we bid everybody good night here. Joel Embiid he now can only miss 6 more games. Like everybody's like shooing Joel Embiid's going to be the MVP. He has 6 games left. And there are 40 games. There's 30 some games left in the season. He can only miss 6 more games before he's ineligible to win any type of in-season award. I dare I say that we might as well, I would almost stop talking about him when we talk about the MVP and use him almost as, if he makes it, then we can throw him back in. But Embiid, he missed tonight. Joel Embiid was not on the injury report. He flew to Denver participated in pregame, and then all of a sudden he has a knee issue and sits out. And on the surface, I say, well, Joel Embiid has a lot of injury history. It's fine, whatever. Joel Embiid has not played in Denver since 2019.
Damn.
That's not a coincidence. I don't want to call him scared. I don't
Ducking
understand.
smoke.
He ducking smoke, man. Like how do you not play in Denver since 2019? How does that even take place? And so it is. So let me say one other thing on this. It's a bad look for him. It's a bad look for the league because here's the other thing. The 76ers play on Monday, right? They play Monday. So not only did Joel Embiid not play, but Tyrese Maxey didn't play. Tobias Harris didn't play. 3 guys didn't play. And I hear Tom Merrill says that wasn't his decision. And the training staff took him out. And that's all fine. But if they come out and play on Monday, there's going to be the league's going to have to send some type of message with a hefty fine. Because the NBA, I mean, literally all week long, they've been bombarding everybody with advertisement. It's NBA Rivals Week. It's Rivals Week. And you wasted a prime spot on a Saturday afternoon with no football to give us Nick Batum and Marcus Morris and Kelly Oubre and Pat Beverly. I had to see Pat Beverly play 37 minutes. I know he went for 17-11. And Kenyon Martin Jr., right? I had to see that go on instead of the actual NBA stars. So it's going to be interesting if Philly plays, if those guys play on Monday and how the league treats this, because this is a marquee game that the NBA was billing, and Joel Embiid has not played in Denver since 2019. So you think you could just show up and put up 40 on Joker in Philly and throw your hands up and say I'm good? I don't understand it with this guy, man. I really don't get it.
Yeah. And for a guy who last year seemed so adamant about getting that MVP award, it's weird for sure. But maybe something has changed. Maybe obviously they said it was a training staff, but the reason he's sitting out, hopefully this would be what Philly fans would want to hear, is that he's not worried about the MVP anymore. He wants to win. And so that's the only way I could kind of justify it. But look, like we always talk about, people pay hard money for the tickets. People want to see you play. People want to see you suit up during the regular season and battle a guy like Jokic. And for you to not provide that, no matter whose decision it was, if you can walk, if you can run, you better be out there. That's my thing. You got to be out there.
Yeah, and especially this game, you sit out Monday, because that's my issue. Is it seems like Joel Embiid is playing again, and here I heard Stephen A. Smith before the game saying that whoever wins the MVP is not going to be it's not going to be real, because we know Joel Embiid is the best player. I don't know that. If everybody sat out like Embiid is, if you only got to play, again, the difference between, I don't think people understand, the difference between playing almost every night and maybe playing a couple times a week, like they're doing the numbers on how much Joel Embiid is sitting out. Embiid is averaging playing one less game per week than guys that would play not a full 82, but if you were to go, basically on pace to be around 70, 75 plus games. If you're on that pace, Joel Embiid is on pace for one less game per week. You can't tell me that that's not a big difference if you are playing one less game per week than your peers. Your numbers should look better. I'm not saying he hasn't played great. I have not said it. I'm just saying your numbers will look better than the rest of the guys if you are playing on more rest. And again, it seems like he's picking who he doesn't want to play against, who he wants to play against. I guess, again, I don't want to belabor the point, but listen, man, I like Joel Embiid. I think he's an interesting character. I think he's a great player. But for a guy who has not made it out of the second round, who just won an MVP and was trending towards winning the second MVP, and again, here's the thing, I don't think people are talking about. Do you think, Chris, that maybe he really doesn't want to win this MVP? Because when you win, he's already won one MVP. And he's the only MVP winner in NBA history who's not made it out of the second round. Mm-hmm. Do you know how much the pressure's just – you win another regular season MVP, the pressure just goes up. You're a two-time MVP winner, you ain't been out of the second round? Yeah. And so maybe he feels like because everybody's talking about him as if he's the greatest player in the game in the game right now. Nobody's
Yeah.
better than Joel Embiid. And maybe he wants to take a little bit of that pressure off and say, hold on, I really don't want that. Do you
Yeah.
think you think there may be some credence
Well,
to
there
that?
there could be certainly some validity to that statement because look, this guy has it seems like he tries to make it seem like he's carrying this team so far and he's doing all this, but when it comes playoff time, it only gets you so far, and you can't even get out of the second round, and you're constantly shown up, and so yeah, I think that there could be some truth to that he doesn't want the pressure. I also think that he's probably already letting that pressure get to him because, look, I get on Twitter and people are just on their knees for Joel Embiid. They're like it's crazy, and a guy. This is why it just disappoints me because a guy like Giannis can go for 36, 18, and 10, and that'll just get swept under the
Right.
rug. But Joel Embiid with the 70-point game, yeah, kudos to you. That's a good feat, whatever. Yeah, but other games where he's got it on, it's a lot more attention. So yeah, I think he's a guy that lives for the attention until it gets tough, and he's soft.
Hey, well,
Soft guy.
and like I said, that's why he can't advance in the playoffs. He's always on the ground. I don't know. Maybe he's gotta figure that out. Todd says the stat where they flashed tonight, the Giannis leads the league in back-to-back game scoring was crazy, and absolutely it was. I do think only last thing on the game tonight, and we'll wrap this thing up. I thought that I did think that it was interesting. Giannis only played 29 minutes. They left him in. I think they did leave him in to get him that 30 points. And even one shot, he took like a turnaround jumper to end the game. Bucks up like 30 with like 5 minutes to go, and Giannis is still in there jacking up shots. So I think 100% he wanted to get his average. But yeah, that'll help Todd to get him to that 30-point mark on a back-to-back. So good stuff. Again, Giannis, and that's what I love about Giannis Antetokounmpo. Like I say it all the time. Do not take this for granted because Giannis, he will – the athleticism will fade. I'm not saying that that's going to be anytime soon, but the athleticism will fade. Giannis will fade as far as what he is as a player. And I just don't want to forget what he did every single, because that's the thing. He didn't just come out every other night. Every single night, you knew the type of effort, energy he was going to give. And he did it at a high scoring clip, too. So, again, just so much credit to Giannis. I never want to sweep under the rug the stuff he's doing and has been doing basically since 2017. He's been that consistent with it. Chris, any final words from you after a 141-117 victory over the New Orleans Pelicans?
Well, when you put up 141 points, it's tough to lose, right? In regulation and continuing that hot shooting 44% from three tonight. Hopefully that carries into Monday, carries in with the new coach. Obviously, we're excited to see what Doc Rivers has in store for this Bucks team, and we'll be here covering it with the Cream City crossover post game to try to see if any adjustments were made or if he just rolls the dice and has these guys go out and we'll see what happens. Super excited to see that Bucks Nuggets game because I think it'll be a highly competitive game and could be a preview of another NBA Finals.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, it absolutely could be NBA Finals preview. Okay, so like you said, I do want to get the schedule out. Man, good job for everybody. We did this basically under an hour tonight. Bucks Nuggets. It's basically a Bucks after dark road trip because the Bucks Nuggets is at 8 Central, 9 Eastern. Trailblazers Nuggets is 10 Eastern, 9 Central. So we're gonna be up late with these post
Late
games.
8.
Late 8. So listen, if you can muster it, if you can stomach it, come out with us or watch us the next morning, whatever you gotta do.
Throw on the slippers, the PJs, put the
Yeah.
AirPods in. You got a wife to go ahead and turn your back to her and watch the Cream City
man,
crossover.
Get you some Stella Rosa, get on
Yeah.
that Cream City crossover, and yeah, we will be with you for a West Coast road trip. It's so funny. Like these are my sometimes my favorite weeks. I love it when when watching the Brewers and they have to go in there up to the West Coast and play those late games too, because obviously baseball can get super late with some of the games. But yeah, this is definitely going to be fun. These late night games, I think the show may get even further off the rails. We'll try not to hold you too long, but we will be with Cream City crossover this week starting Monday against the Denver Nuggets. And hey, we will have pregame coverage on 97.3 The Game, Bucks in 60 from 6 to 7 Central 97.3 The Game and iHeartRadio. Get on your iHeart app. Bucks in 60 starts Monday night on 97.3 The Game. So we'll do that as well. I think we're going to be on Wednesday night as well, but I'll let you know if that's the case. But again, we'll be back with Cream City Crossover. Like, follow, subscribe, all that. We appreciate every single person that watched and listened tonight to us. We want to thank our sponsors, Law Office of Daley M. Johnson. When you need defense off the court, called Law Office of Daley M. Johnson for criminal defense, traffic, OWI defense, TROs, and injunctions. His number is 608-893-8370. I don't know if he'll be open tomorrow because it's Sunday, so call him Monday if you get into any problems over the weekend. Any final words, Chris King?
Man, long day, but fun day. I had a ton of fun being on the radio, reacting to Doc Rivers' introductory press conference. That was a fun one. We can go check that YouTube video out. We ended up recording a 10-minute little video once we're done here. But yeah, and obviously my Dayton Flyers lost, probably dropped down in the rankings. But glad to end the night with a fun time with the Cream City crossover and a good Bucks win. So we'll see you guys on Monday, and I appreciate everybody tuning in. The sub count, look, 355, and that can only go up, and it's only going to allow us to create more content. Constant content. We're consistent with it, as you guys can already tell, but we'll be here for pretty much every post game left, and hopefully it carries into a finals run.
Absolutely. So again, appreciate all of you for joining us, and keep joining us. From the Guru, Trey Crosby III,
Chris King.
We'll see you guys Monday night. It's the Denver Nuggets. Don't take no with Nichols.